I was panicked the minute she didn't get home on time. And then I was doubly panicked a few minutes later when the dog was there and she wasn't.
All the neighbors were out looking. They canvassed the whole area.
The hope was that they'd find her alive. We just prayed that they would find her alive. You think to yourself, God, maybe she's just hurt. She can't get home.
So you've got one person getting information as far as clothing, picture what they look like, while you have other deputies out there searching the roadway from her running route.
She was wearing a light-colored sweatshirt, teal green sweatpants, light blue running shoes with a purple stripe, and she had a Walkman. She was listening to music as she ran.
In any investigation like this, you'd have to figure out who Mandy was, what she was about.
She was very everything. I don't know whether there are words to describe her. One of my favorite Mandy stories, in the summertime, in order to keep my 7.5 acres of pasture eaten down, I would borrow some cows from a neighbor I had. One summer, he brought over just 4, and he said, well, these are bulls. And one day, when Mandy was about 2 years old, she was short enough so that she could run under our fence without hitting the hot wire. She went out to play with the bulls, and I was scared to death. I mean, those bulls weighed probably 2,000 pounds apiece, and they were huge, and here she is. They froze. Those bulls absolutely froze. She could have gone right up to them if I hadn't caught her first. She was not afraid to do anything that she set out to do.
Mandy Stavik was a bright, vivacious, gregarious 18-year-old, graduated from Mount Baker High School, was in her very first semester at Central Washington University.
Mandy loved anything athletic. She could do things that I could never do. She could jump on a horse bareback and take off running across the field. She loved softball, she loved track, she loved baseball, she loved basketball.
She played everything she could. I said to her, you can't turn out for track and play basketball at the same time. And she says, you want to bet? Never bet with Mandy. She always wins.
In '89, I was the band director at Mount Baker. Mandy wanted to be the best at whatever she was doing.
We spent a lot of time going for walks and things and just talking, and we talked about relationships and just different things and things that you would talk about, as young teenage girls.
What I loved about her, she's independent. I met Mandy when I was a sophomore, or maybe, and she was a freshman. I was a year ahead of her. First big love, of course, and for some reason, she loved me. I think she was way out of my league, but,
Everybody liked her, so she wasn't the typical student that, may have 1 or 2 enemies.
Live from Seattle, this is Como News 4.
Good evening, I'm Kathy Gertson.
And I'm Dan Lewis. An extensive search for a missing teenager.
Her brother, who was visiting a neighbor, actually saw her run one direction and then a few minutes later run the other way. He was the last person to see her.
Every TV station, radio station, newspaper from across the state and even outside the state, national media were covering it.
I was in my first year as a reporter at the Bellingham Herald at the time. I hopped in my car and I drove out and interviewed Mary. She understood that there was a chance that we could help.
And then we called everybody, all the neighbors and all of her friends, just to see if anybody had seen her.
Mandy's mother is a school bus driver for the Mount Baker district.
She's a survivor. with everything that she's gone through.
Mandy's family had come from Alaska. Her parents were divorced. Mary had come down with 3 kids, Mandy and Molly and Lee, and settled in Acme.
Mom called me, she said, Mandy's missing. And it's like, this can't be happening to us again.
She had had an older brother who was killed in Alaska years before.
My oldest son's name was Brent. We lived very close to Fort Richardson in Anchorage, and he had permission from them to hunt on base. And one day, somebody shot him. They called me and said they had his body. He had 17 .22 shells in his back. There was a lot of investigating.
It was basically an unsolved murder.
I still don't know who it was.
She said, I thought I had lived through the worst thing that could happen when Brent died.
It's like Molly said, this can't be happening to our family again. I think I said to her something like, oh, of course it can't happen. We're going to find her. It'll be okay. Even though I didn't really believe that. But I just wanted to give her hope.
Rick Zender was Mandy Stavik's boyfriend, and as is typical in murder investigations, they wanted to question him.
We dated for about 3 years. We've probably broken up 2 or 3 times. It's just one of those, I say, high school things.
At that point in the relationship, it was on and off, but he had brought her home from college.
They checked to see where her ex-boyfriend was.
Oh, I want to be viewed as a suspect. I mean, that's what they should do. That's their job. Usually it's the person closest, it's the killer.
They spoke to him. He was extremely forthcoming. He came in, gave a statement.
The authorities ultimately cleared Rick Zender, but of course they had to look at him.
The first night didn't hear anything, so by the second day it was pretty obvious that this was even more serious than we originally thought.
It was such a mystery. I mean, beautiful 18-year-old, smart, strong women don't just vanish. They don't do that.
We're checking a lot of side roads and found something I thought was a little bit suspicious. The first thing I did was take a video.
When they found the sweatpants, it was, maybe this is something, this is a clue.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.